Okay. Well, thanks everyone for coming to our Toad Learning Camp for this Wednesday. We are talking about Viking Ocean. And we're going to kind of use the same format that we used with Celebrity, and we'll continue to use this when we're doing different cruise lines. First of all, we're going to talk about who Viking is, their ship classes, what a Viking Ocean cruise is like, and the pros and cons of a Viking Ocean cruise. So first of all, we'll start with who is Viking Cruises. Viking started in 1997, which when I started looking into this, I was really a little bit surprised. I thought they had been around much longer than that. And they purchased 4 ships in Russia and then got started with the river cruises at that time. In 2000, they purchased Katy River Cruises so that they could expand the fleet. And then that's also when they expanded to the American market. One of the things that Viking is very well known for is their marketing budget. So usually when someone comes to me and says they want to go on a Viking cruise, usually they mean they want to go on a river cruise because they think that Viking is it. And same with when you mention a river cruise, almost everyone will say, oh, Viking cruises. But in 2015, they decided to expand the fleet, and they expanded to do ocean voyages. And in 2022, they're going to add Mississippi River cruises as well as expedition cruises. And this is the Viking Sea, which is the ship that we sailed on a couple years back. One thing that's kind of nice about the Viking cruises is basically one size fits all. If you're on a river cruise, their regular river cruises are exactly the same layout. Their longboats are exactly the same layout. Ocean ships, they're all the same. The expedition ships will be all the same. So if you go on one ship and then go on another, it's going to be exactly the same. You're not going to have any question how to get around, where to find anything. They're small ships. They hold 930 guests. I did look it up, and they have 550 crew, so it's quite a good crew to guest ratio, a little bit more than, or just a little less than 1 to 2. All of the rooms have verandas, and they currently have 6 ships. 6 more are on order, and they have an option for 4 more. So they expect by 2027 they will have 16 ocean ships in their fleet. They do also have the most river cruises out of all the river cruise companies. They do have several choices for dining options on board, where some of the smaller ships you don't get a lot of extra options. They have 2 pools. One can be an indoor pool. It's got a cover that is removable, and the infinity pool in the back of the ship. They have a gorgeous spa that is a Nordic-inspired spa. And the next few pages, I've got just the layouts of the ship for you. This is deck number 1. This is where you're going to have the specialty dining. They've got 2 specialty restaurants, the chef's table and the Italian restaurant, Manfredi's. See the private dining room 2 and 1, we pretty much occupied those while we were there. The living room is their atrium area, and the Viking bar is the bar that's in the living room area. Some shops, fitness center, salon, and the spa. The next deck has the restaurant, and that's where they serve all the meals that you're going to have on board. And all the meals are complimentary. There's no upcharge for the specialty dining, but you do have to make reservations for that. But the restaurant is all open seating. You just go whenever you want to have a table. You don't have to make reservations for that. Torshaven is the club. They'll have dining or bands playing in there, or a DJ in there, and some more shops, and then the theater. They do have movie theater or movies that are shown periodically in the cinemas, or they have a way to open up the end of the cinema so that expands the theater seating. This is what a typical deck with staterooms looks like. And then we jump up to deck 7, and this is where the buffet is in the back, and the Aquavit Terrace is just an outdoor area for eating or sitting by the infinity pool. And then they've got the pool bar and pool grill in the middle here. The pool grill is open in the afternoon after the buffet is closed. I think they also were open for breakfast. And then the pool bar is on the other side. The pool does have a removable cover. Winter Garden is a room that they can open to the pool, but they can also keep it closed so it's air conditioned. That's where they had afternoon tea every day. And then Explorers Lounge was just kind of a nice gathering place. They had a bar in there. When they did trivia, they would do it in there. Momsen's was kind of a deli. And then the next deck, the Explorers Lounge, is a 2-level room, and it just shows the retractable roof. And the sports deck was way up on the top. These were the rooms that our group had. The room up here on the upper left, that one is your standard veranda room. It had a couple chairs, desk, bed. The bedrooms, or the bathrooms, are rather unique because they have heated floors in them, and they have a really nice large shower stall in there, under cabinet lighting, so you don't have to worry about turning on a light in the middle of the night. It just keeps the bathroom lit enough. And then the room below is the veranda, the penthouse veranda, and that one has a couch in there that could be opened, I think, in some of the rooms. So this one was a little bit larger than the other room, but basically a similar layout. The veranda room runs 270 square feet, which, for those of you who cruise on other cruise lines, you know that's sizable compared to even Disney. I think Disney's category 4, the family verandas, are right around 300 square feet. So this is considerably larger than a regular veranda, or definitely larger than a standard inside room, which is around 168 square feet, I believe. The big difference in the stateroom categories is you do have different amenities as a result of the kinds of room that you book. The time that you can check in to your room, you can get on the ship at 11 o'clock, regardless of if you're in the penthouse veranda or in the regular veranda. But the regular veranda can't get into their room until after 3 p.m. The penthouse can get in at 1 p.m. Some of the suites can get in right away at 11 a.m. The number of reservations you can make at the restaurants ahead of time. If you're in a penthouse veranda, you can do 2. With a regular veranda, you could only do 1. And it was at different days. Same with the shore excursions and spa appointments. It all depended on what type of room you were in. The mini bar is complimentary in all cabins, but in the penthouse veranda, it does also include alcohol. Which is another big difference with Viking over some of the other cruise lines. They've kind of carried over what they do on the river cruises to the ocean cruises, where during dinner, during meal times, lunch and dinner, you can get beer, soda, and wine included with your meals. But if you want other alcoholic beverages, you're going to have to pay for them or get a beverage package. And their theory is most of the time when you're on a cruise, you're going to be on shore. So paying for a whole beverage package doesn't really make sense. And they provide the wines and the beer and soft drinks during meals. So that should be sufficient is the way that they kind of look at this. And this was the inclusions for our 11-night Southern Caribbean cruise. But just to give you an idea, because it's basically the same for each cruise line or cruise that they offer. In each port of call, you do get a complimentary shore excursion. It generally is the walking tour or a bus tour, depending upon where you are. So if you want to do the other shore excursions, you can certainly pay for those. But if you want to just do a free shore excursion in each port, you certainly can. Wi-Fi is complimentary. Because they do provide the beer, wine, and soft drinks, and because I think part of it is also because they don't have a casino on board, you are able to bring on your own alcohol. So we all brought on a bottle or two, and we could have that in our rooms, take it out of our rooms if we wanted to. But I know that some of our cruisers did opt to do the beverage package, which really wasn't that expensive because you are in port all the time, and so they didn't charge as much as I would have expected for a beverage package, but the option was there. They do also include, or they do have an air program, and many times they will have free air promotions or reduced cost air promotions. That I have mixed feelings about that. I think it's kind of nice, except for you do have to make full payment fairly soon after depositing on a cruise if you're getting one of their promotions. Otherwise, their full payment is quite far in advance. In any case, it's at least 120 days, but I know it does vary depending upon the type of cruise that you're on. They do the kind of entertainment that they have. They do a port talk every single day in the evening before they have the show, and they'll have different lecturers talk about what you're going to see in each port. They have movies up on the pool deck a couple times during the cruise. They do have a lot of classical music performances and guest lectures talking about different things that you're going to see in each port and historical things. All your meals are included, of course. They do have specialty dinners outside of the buffet. Like we had a seafood night one night, and they had another theme night where they opened up the Aquavie terrace, and they set up a buffet out there, and they had a chef out there making stuff for us. Also at the buffet every night they had sushi. One of the things that was kind of interesting about the food is, other than the specialty dining, if you wanted to go to the buffet, it was exactly the same meal that you were going to get in the main dining room. We opted more nights to go to the buffet when we weren't in specialty dining, because we could control the pace of the meal and the size of the portions a lot better. One night when we were in the main dining room, we had looked at the menu for the buffet, and they had many more desserts on the buffet than they did in the main dining room. And somebody may have tried to order something that wasn't on the menu in the main dining room, and they would not go up and get it for me. So I left and went and got it in the buffet and brought it back down to the main dining room. So from that point on, we pretty much ate up in the buffet, because if someone like Louise would have many, many, many appetizers, the rest of us wouldn't have to wait for her, and she could have as many as she wanted, and the rest of us could go and get the next course at the buffet. And they had plenty of room up there. They had still had servers coming around taking care of us, so it was still a nice, enjoyable experience, even though we were up at the buffet. And let's see. Okay, and this gives you an idea of some of the shore excursions that they had. The included shore excursion, uh, that was an island drive, so they drove around North Shore and Puzzers, and in the British Virgin Islands when we were at I think it was when we were at Tortola, and but we had options to upgrade and do the Virgin Gorda and the baths, or the Dolphin and Adventure Swim, or we did the Escape to Jost Van Dyke. And so there was definitely different options for you in each port of call. So what is a cruise like? Well, I've given you some insight on that. I would say that the activities are a lot more low key. If you like orchestras, if you like pianos, a guitarist, maybe a band now and then. They had good entertainment from that aspect. When we went to the cruise critic meet, um, I asked the assistant cruise director about trivia, and he said, well, we're not really that kind of cruise line. And he did say, though, that they were going to be offering extra trivia that cruise. It was an 11-night sailing, and we had 3 nights of trivia, which were conveniently scheduled during dinner most of the time. So we only made it to 1.5. And at night, we did make our own entertainment most nights. So they had either the trio or the guitarist or the pianist in the living room each night. These different acts would rotate which venue they were in each night. Like I said, we made our own entertainment. I'll go into that more when I get to that picture. They do go to a lot of destinations. One of the things that's very nice about being on a small ship, and you'll find this with any of the small ship cruises, is that they can get into smaller ports of call. So we were able to go to ports that the bigger ships just can't get into. On our sailing, it wasn't so much that. I think we mainly went to the main ports of call, but on some of the other sailings, they went to St. John instead of going to St. Thomas. Some of them will go to Virgin Gorda instead of going to Tortola. We did go to Dominica and Barbados, which the larger ships go to Barbados, but not a lot of the bigger ships will go to Dominica. So there's definitely a lot more options for destinations. And with them having so many cruise ships, especially in the upcoming years, there are a lot of options. I had a client last year do a sailing from Buenos Aires to Santiago. So they went around the Horn, and they did go down to Antarctica. And that's not an unusual sailing for them. So you can pretty much cruise anywhere in the world on a Viking Ocean cruise. The service was top notch, other than getting bugged in the restaurant. We joked, in the Italian restaurant, there was a microphone coming down from the ceiling. There was a couple of them, and so we would start talking into the microphone to see if servers would come in, and they did, but I think it was just chance that it happened. We would joke with the hotel director about it. We got to know the crew very well, especially the higher ups, um, the hotel director and the guest services manager. And the service was just very, very good on board, but there's basically a little bit more than one of them to every two of us. The food was, as I've said before, the food is very subjective. It was good, but I wouldn't say that it's the best food I've ever had on a cruise ship. I would say it's definitely better than a lot that I've been on. I wish that they would have given us more options and more dining times. We were very restricted in the amount of time that was available for dining. If the main dining room was open for dinner, those were the exact same hours that the buffet was open. The buffet was only open for about 2 hours for lunch, and then it was closed. And the only place you could get anything to eat at that point was the grill. Um, so it was a little bit limited, I think, in what, even though they had more dining options, they were very limited. Here's just a sampling of some of the things that we had on board. And this was the pool, with the grill would have been to the left and the bar was to the right, and Winter Garden is ahead of there. And those glass doors, they could open them completely. So if it was a nice day and they had the roof open, they could open it up and we'd go in there we went in for high tea almost every day. And that was kind of a different thing to do on a cruise. We hadn't done that before on a regular basis. And here was our group. One of the things that was really nice, being in such a small ship we were pretty much a large group for a small ship. There was 8 of us on board. We had our own private mixology class, and we were able to have our own private tour of the bridge. And they did offer that to other guests. So it wasn't something that was unusual, but we had a hard time scheduling it with our shore excursions. And because we made friends with the guest services agent or manager, she was able to get us in a private tour of the bridge. And this was our last night on board. Because we knew that the entertainment was a little limited, we brought Cards Against Humanity with us, and we would sit in the living room and bring liquor from our room and drink and play Cards Against Humanity. And the guest services manager told us we brought life to the cruise line. And here's a picture of our ship as we were coming back in from our excursion in Tortola. And the pros and cons of a Viking Ocean cruise. A smaller ship is great for, like I said, getting into the smaller ports of call. Usually with a smaller ship, you're going to have better service because you're just naturally going to have more crew members for the number of people that are on board. And the main reason for that is there are some positions that every single cruise ship is going to have, and you just naturally end up with a better ratio when you're on a smaller ship. And that's what I just said. With having one layout of every ship, they have a lot of consistency with what they're offering. I think that's very good to get on a ship and know exactly what you're expecting. So for those people that don't like any surprises, This is a good cruise line for that. The food was very good. Like I said, I wouldn't say it was the best I've ever had, but it was very good. The entertainment, if you don't like a lot of activities, this is a very good cruise ship. If you like spending time just like you're going with one other person and you just want to sit and relax and not have a lot going on, or you like going to the talks of what's coming up the next day, Viking could be a very good choice. To be completely honest with you, I probably would not go on another Viking Ocean cruise unless it was with a group and we were going to a specific destination. It just wasn't, there wasn't enough activity for me. Not that I need to be entertained 24/7, but I don't like to have to make my own entertainment. And we found that some of the things that we really like to do, like they had an ABBA sing-along, which was great, but almost half of the audience left partway through because they didn't like it. So that wasn't something that that cruise line normally would do. They did show this, I can't remember what it was called, but it was the second Mamma Mia. They showed that, and the theater was almost empty. But we stayed the whole time, and we had a great time watching it. So it's just a little bit more subdued. The clientele, the clientele are typically a little bit older and a little bit more sedentary. I've been on Azamara, and their clientele are also older. Our first cruise on Azamara, the oldest person on board was 99 years old. You couldn't pick him out because there was one walker on the whole ship the whole time we were there. So those people on that cruise were a lot more active, going and doing things, joining in trivia. Viking was a little bit more sedate. And this was just another random picture of the Viking Sea. And that takes care of our presentation. I'm gonna unmute everyone and open it up to questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Tracy, good, Mark.
Wasn't the age that you had an age requirement? You had to be at least 16 or 17 on the ship?
You have to be, when we went on, it was 16. They have now changed that to 18.
Okay.
And so any Viking cruises, whether it's ocean, river, expedition, you do have to be 18 or older to be on board.
Their entertainment was borderline, but the bathrooms, we had a large bathroom compared to Disney. So I mean, there's a lot of things I liked. I liked the smaller size of the ship. I didn't know I would like it before we did it. But it turned out I liked that part of it. I would do another one if I had the right itinerary.
I would say that the bed or the rooms were by far the largest I've ever been in. The only thing I've ever been in that's been larger has been a suite. And we didn't have a suite on this one. We did upgrade to have a little bit nicer room, to have a little bit more space, and I'm glad we did. It was nice to have the couch in there, and we were able to open up our balconies with the three rooms that were together. So we basically just had one huge balcony, which was really nice. But yeah, the rooms were by far, that was the best stateroom I've ever been in. Kathy, you had a question?
Yeah, a couple. You mentioned that they're going to start doing expedition type cruises. What does that mean? Or what are they looking to do?
They will be doing more cruises that are exclusively going to Antarctica. Some of their expedition cruises, I believe they're going to be doing the Arctic too, and going up Norway. And they're going to be doing the Great Lakes as well with their expedition ships.
Will they be bigger, or are they going to have smaller ships for that?
Yeah, even smaller than what this is.
Okay. And then with the river cruises, are they just going to like focus on the Mississippi, or are they going to be doing maybe like the Columbia River Gorge or somewhere else?
Right now, they're just talking about Mississippi. I know Columbia is one that I would love to do.
I would too. I would too.
It's just a matter of finding the right company to do it with. They've got paddle wheelers out there, and they've also got little river cruises. So there's options there.
Where else do they cruise? I mean, you hit the Caribbean, but they do like Europe or yeah.
Yeah, they do the Mediterranean, they do the Baltics, and they've got a couple world cruises for sure. And I'm sure they're over in Asia too, and yeah, pretty much anywhere.
They're kind of in the same class as, I keep thinking of Azamara. They're kind of like a nomadic. They cruise a couple things here, a couple things there. Then they go a long ways away and they do a whole bunch of stuff. They just go all over the place.
Though they do a lot more repeated itineraries because they have
Yeah.
more ships, so they can do that.
Where do you put them online with? Are they like a Celebrity, Silver Sea, Upper?
I would put them, they're not a Silver Sea, definitely not, or Seabourn. They're closer along the lines of an Azamara, which are kind of in between that premium and the luxury.
Okay.
So they're considered a little bit more luxury, but not quite there. They're not all inclusive like a Silver Sea would be. I don't know that any of the rooms have butlers. In fact, I'm pretty sure they don't. So they're not quite to that level, but definitely more premium than a Celebrity or a Princess or Helen America would be.
Okay.
And I'm taking a quick look to see where they're showing, yeah, the Arctic, Antarctica, Great Lakes in Canada, and the Galapagos for their expedition ships. And their ocean ships, Scandinavia, North Europe, Americas and Caribbean, Mediterranean, Asia, Australia, World and Grand Voyages, and yeah, that's so pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Bring us back to anybody else have questions?
Know how long Antarctica is?
How long the sailing is? Usually those are, they're going to be between, well, some of them are in September, which is kind of surprising. That's
Early.
Yeah, usually they're between November and February, and they run 12 to 17 days. Yeah, that tends to, I think the shortest Antarctica sailing that I have found is around 11 nights. And that was on, it's either Silver Sea or Seabourn. But that tends to be a longer sailing. And usually you're going to start from Buenos Aires or from Santiago. And then you usually fly in and then catch the ship. Kind of like same with the Galapagos, where you start in Quito or there's one other city in Ecuador, and then you fly into Baltra to get on the cruise ship there.
How long a flight is that?
Which from Quito to Baltra?
Yeah.
It's I think it's about 2.5 to 3 hours.
So it's a good direct flight. Okay.
Yeah. but it's a direct flight there, and it's usually a chartered flight. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Good.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
I've never been on those, so
I sort of liked it, but it was definitely an older crowd. When I come in there and I'm one of the young people,
that could be good right now.
you know it's an older crowd.
You know, one thing that you don't see on the larger ships that's kind of interesting, and I've seen it on both Azamara and Viking. They have an area where they have games that you can check out and play. I mean, that I've seen on other ships, but they actually have a table on both of these ships that someone has started working on a jigsaw puzzle, and others come and add to it. And I know we were waiting for someone ready to go to a shore excursion, and we started working on the jigsaw puzzle for a little bit and then moved on. And
Mm.
it just it's a different atmosphere when you're on a smaller ship, definitely.
And the Viking ships are beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of storage in the rooms.
Mhm.
The stairway going up in the main kind of the atrium area, they had a huge video screen, and they would put paintings on it,
Oh,
and it was amazing.
cool.
But I know one day they had a dessert buffet, and that was like 2 5-foot tables in the atrium. But you got a small crowd, so it's not going to be much.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
That's kind of nice, though.
900,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How does it handle the seats? Being when you say small, I mean,
You know,
I
I've
don't know how to
never
relate a small
really,
ship.
yeah,
What
I've
is it?
never really had a problem on a small ship with the seas. Um, pretty much any ship you're on, you could feel the motion. We were on Oasis of the Seas, which at the time was the largest ship in the world, and we could still feel the motion. So I think that it just depends on where you're sailing, the time of year you're sailing, and where you're going to. Because going out of Florida, it's almost always rough the first night, no matter what kind of ship you're on. Going out of New York, it's almost always rough the first night, no matter what. I don't think I've ever been on a sailing out of New York where it hasn't been rough the first night.
Mhm.
And it's just because of the ocean, the direction it's going. And
And
we didn't, we had one night on one of our cruises on Azamara where it was a little bit more rough. The big thing is they have to slow down a lot more than the bigger ships, because they don't have the engine power that a big ship does. When we did our transatlantic, first night out of New York, it was really rough. And the last night going into Lisbon, it was rough. But other than that, it was smooth sailing the whole way. So I wouldn't look at it and say a small ship is definitely going to be rougher. I wouldn't say that it is.
Our itinerary was very important, sensitive.
Intense.
Yeah, intense is a better word. I mean, we were in another port every day for 9 straight days, which almost got a little hard on you. And so these were a lot of short hauls from one island to the next island. There was a boom, boom. There wasn't any long trips. I mean, it was just a quick over from this island and 50 miles to that island.
We didn't have a day at sea at all, did we?
Nope.
No.
no,
We overnighted in San Juan, then left the next day from San Juan, and then every day after that we were in a port. And it got very tiring. It's a very, very port intensive company, definitely. They would rather go to a lot of ports than have any days at sea. And they did say that's part of the reason that they don't have a lot of activity on board, because they are in port all the time.
It seems almost they carried over the model from their river cruises, which are always port intensive.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely did, and they made it clear to us that that's the type of company that they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And that was definitely the case on the river cruises too.
Oh, yeah, we were in a different port or two every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a lot of other activities on board.
Yeah.
You'd have a port talk every day to let you know what to expect the next day, and um, either a band or a DJ each night, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah. They look like a very good cruise company to consider if you really want to go someplace where it's port intensive, like, up to the Baltics or to Scandinavia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I going into some of these places where the big cruise ships don't go, um, I, I would definitely go on a small ship.
Yeah.
And um, every once in a while you'll see one of the major cruise lines going up the Norwegian coast, and there's just so many places that they can't go because of their size.
Oh, yeah.
Now, many of you may have heard about them having to evacuate a Viking Ocean ship because of the area they were in. The weather was really bad. It was up in Norway. It's an area that is very well known for their bad seas, and it just was a bad time that they caught it there.
Mhm.
I would just caution you, especially if you're worried about being seasick, just the big thing is, where are you going and when are you going? I've personally been in 2 or 3 hurricanes, including in the eye of Hurricane Sandy, on a cruise ship. Yeah, it's not fun. I've learned that there's places on a cruise ship I definitely don't want to stay ever. So, yeah.
One thought it was fun. She wanted to open up the veranda and stick her head out. I said, "You're nuts."
The very first hurricane that we went through was Hurricane Hillary.
Hillary.
We were doing a Panama Canal cruise, going from Los Angeles to Florida, and just leaving, we couldn't get into Cabo because of the weather. And it was so bad, and we were 350 miles away from it, but we didn't know what was going on at the time. We woke up and we're trying to open up the balcony door, and I'm pulling and pulling. I'm like, I can't be this weak. So I'm like, Bill, get up, open up the door for me. And he's trying, finally opens it up, and it was like the cartoons where our legs are like dangling.
Imagine my feet just
so
going
hard.
back and forth.
Like, shut
Wow.
the door.
Well, and I went outside and I looked, and you could actually see ships are flexible. They have to be, or they just snap. But I could actually see the bow going a little bit,
Wow.
and then I ran back inside.
They didn't warn you about not opening that?
It was like 6 in the morning, and so it had happened overnight.
Fly out.
And let me